Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the debut record from Nahaya, Vital Alchemy, out May 21st on Rock Shots Records. This album has 7 tracks, 25 minutes in length, and they are an American melodic death metal band. Now, this album has a structure that in my opinion hurts a little bit of the playability and fluidity of the album. I like the intro, I like the songs on an individual basis, but it's missing something. Perhaps an outro and also a middle track, maybe an instrumental track that really breaks the record into two and allows the album overall to feel a little bit more connected. They almost constructed this album the same way you would construct an EP, which is not putting too much effort or thought process in terms of the fluidity and the connection that the songs should have in order to improve the overall playability of the record and feel like you're going through a journey, or at least give you the sensation of being connected and have this continuous flow from the first track to the last track. The album feels a little bit bumpy and it allows you to almost reset and restart with every single song. I just didn't feel like there was a red line all the way through it. Once you get into the soundscape, I really like how this album sounds. I like how it was recorded. I like how it's put forward. It really has that melodic death metal touch, but there's also some thrash elements at play. And when you mix these two genres, it allows you to be a little bit more creative, think outside the box, go outside of the normal parameters and make songs that are perhaps a little bit more interesting, a little bit more dynamic, that offer peaks and valleys, not just from track to track, but within the songs themselves. And once again, the production value on this record is very interesting. I really like the sound, very well defined. You can hear the bass, you can hear the drums, you can definitely hear the guitars and vocals, and everything is coming at you in a different lane, but at the same time merging really well together in order to provide a very rich atmosphere. Within that soundscape, there's definitely two elements that we have to push into the forefront for different reasons: the drums and guitars. I like the drums on this album, but I like how subdued they are. Sometimes they do jump a little bit more into the forefront, they have a little bit more bite, a little bit more power, but more often than not, they're very controlled throughout the whole experience of this album. They're almost creating the roadmap for everything else to travel upon, and they're very consistent in that roadmap, and they're very consistent in execution and in what comes forward from song to song. Not a lot of variations, but it's important to have at least one element within the record that stays consistent, that stays grounded. It makes a better process for the listener in terms of staying connected and engaged with the overall experience of the record. On the other hand, you have the guitars. I love the guitar sound on this album. Not to say that it's eclectic, but it's a guitar sound that has a lot of power, that has a lot of substance, and it doesn't vary that much. It does offer little glimpses here and there of variations of approach, variation of sound, and definitely in terms of what inspired them and what drove them. The genres of melodic death metal and thrash metal are perhaps a little bit more present in the overall guitar sound and how they executed those guitars and how they interact with everything else that is happening. But like I said, it's not eclectic at all, but when you look at the drums and you look at the guitars, you definitely see a little bit more life, a little bit more energy in the guitar sound and in the overall approach. But I love the guitars on this record. If there's one thing that I walk away from this album feeling, is that this album has great guitar sound, great guitar players. They really executed well their game plan. On top of all of this, you have the vocals. To me, this is another weak spot. I really enjoy the harsh vocals. I feel like they add so much aggression, they add so much intensity, really helps the album move forward. They really work well with what the drums are doing and definitely what the guitars are providing, and they become the glue that really unifies everything else within the record. It's the clean vocals that I'm not a huge fan of. Perhaps they overuse them throughout the record. They really worked well on some tracks, but they not necessarily work well on every single song. I like some of the backing vocals almost used as a choir. That did give a little bit of a change of perspective, a little bit of a change of dynamics. But overall, I always felt that the clean vocals came not at the wrong time, because they were actually at the right place at the right time. They just didn't have the right delivery or the right tone, in my opinion, in order to make the album feel a little bit more robust. They almost took a little bit of the air out of the balloon every time they were coming into the forefront. Like I said, not on every song, but on most of the tracks, they really deflate the songs a little bit. Overall, this is an interesting record. We have to keep in mind this is a debut album, so I think there's a lot of room for growth for this band. I think they can take the positives and then build upon those positives and improve on some of the negatives in order to make an album next time around that's a little bit more robust, that feels a little bit more like a full-length record and not just an extended EP, which is kind of the vibe that I got from this record. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I'm going to start off with Vital Alchemy. I love this track, one of my favorites on the album, in my top 2 favorite songs of this record. I just like the feel that it has. I love the tempo. The guitars and drums really push this song forward, and then the harsh vocals come in to add a lot of intensity, to add a lot of aggression, and really help becoming part of that motor that really drives this song. The guitar melody in the pre-chorus is absolutely phenomenal. The chorus become a little bit more melodic, a little bit more melancholic, and you're gonna get that predominantly coming from the vocals. The vocals really change your perception of this song depending on where they went with the clean vocals and where they went with the harsh vocals. The guitar solo is phenomenal, but once again, I mean, I could be here all day talking about how great the guitars are on this record. Next, Midnight Fidelio, another interesting track, great opening, the guitars, drums, and vocals really working well together in unison, if you will, in order to create a very substantial sounding track that just moves, and it has great momentum, has great dynamics. You definitely can see the changes between the verses and the chorus, but it still has a very linear approach. There are some changes, there are some fluctuations, but they're not really well pronounced. It's not like you have peaks and valleys on this track. Overall, the song still feels very straightforward, that it's moving in a very linear path, both musically and vocally. It just feels very balanced all around. Great guitar sound, the harsh vocals are phenomenal, a great track all around. I really like how they built it, and a song that I felt like the clean vocals added something to the atmosphere. They added something to the overall presence. Perhaps one of the few tracks where I actually really enjoyed the clean vocals. Last but not least, Agori Fires. Another track that has a little bit of depth to it. And at the beginning of this song, I almost felt like I was listening to Amon Amarth. Not quite there, but Amon Amarthist, if you will. It just had some resemblances of what I would expect from an Amon Amarth song as far as the overall melody, the presence, the atmosphere that it creates with that opening riff, with how the song starts. I like the fact that that melody then kind of dissipates into the track. It almost disappears after a while, but I like the fact that it's not just at the top of the song, and it rather becomes a little bit of part of the song, and it starts to move you, or at least guide you as the listener into the track itself. I love the tempo of the track. Once again, the guitars and harsh vocals really working well together, really pushing this song into the forefront, really giving it substance, aggression, intensity, all of those important elements. On this track, on the chorus, they went with backing vocals almost like a choir, which was a needed change. I really feel for a song that has the components that this track has, that has the sound, the melody, the aggression, the intensity, you need something substantial. Going just with single clean vocals in the chorus, I think would deflate the track, which was exactly what happened in some of the previous songs. But using it more as a choir, a conjunction of different vocals coming together really adds a little bit more substance, and inserting the harsh vocals into that mix adds even more depth to the overall experience. A track that's really well constructed, and it always moves you forward. It always keeps you going, doesn't have almost any pauses in it. This is it. This is Nahaya with Vital Alchemy, out May 21st on Rockshot Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.